This question is asking us to weaken the ethicist argument. So let's see what the ethicist says. On average, animals raised on grain must be fed 16 pounds of grain to produce 1 pound of meat. Right, so you take a cow and 1 pound of steak. Where did that come from? Well, it came from the cow eating 16 pounds of grain. So the conversion ratio is 16 pounds of grain to 1 pound of meat. And a pound of meat is more nutritious than a pound of grain. Well, okay, sure. I would hope so. I mean, it took 16 pounds of this to convert into 1 pound of that. But 16 pounds of grain could feed more people than could a pound of meat. Okay, so a pound of meat maybe feeds one person. 16 pounds of grain, I don't know, feeds 4 people, 3 people, who knows, more people than one. And with grain yields leveling off, large areas of farmland going out of production each year, so we're not improving our yield. Given 1 acre of land, we're not growing more and more grain, year on year. Our science, our agricultural science on that is sort of leveling off. But there are also large swaths of farmland going out of production, so the population is rapidly expanding. We need more people. Here comes the conclusion. We must accept the fact that consumption of meat will soon be morally unacceptable. But there's so many presumptions here. Just because all this stuff is happening, grain yields leveling off, right? Farmland going out of production, population rapidly expanding. First of all, does that? I don't even know if that means that we don't have enough food. What if we had what if already at this moment we have enough food to feed 100 billion people? Sure, populate expand as rapidly as you want, right? We're only at 7 now. We can keep going up. Right? I don't know that that's not true. So that's one presumption we have to make, that that's not true, right? That our current level of production is sort of just barely meeting what our population needs. Therefore, if our current level of production dips and our demand rises, that creates a shortage. And then of course maybe this becomes problematic. Right, but there are all sorts of other things that could be. I mean, things that I perhaps can't anticipate, I can't think of. But let's go into the answer choices, sort of understanding that there's a gap between how this premise supports the conclusion. A says, even though it has been established that vegetarian diet can be healthy, many people. So it kind of accommodates that potential. That's one assumption. What if vegetarian diet is just not healthy? Right, then it's not that you morally consumption of meat is morally. So in fact, we have to keep eating meat. We just have to beef up our excuse me pun the our agricultural sciences. So, but anyway, so they sort of dismiss that. Many people prefer to eat meat and are willing to pay for it, but that just doesn't matter. The fact that they have a preference for eating meat, that doesn't do anything to address the fact that grain yields are leveling off, people are rapidly expanding. So yeah, it may just this essentially this support is strong as ever. It doesn't weaken the support. That's why A doesn't work. B says, often cattle or sheep can be raised majority on grass from pasture land that's unsuitable for any other type of farming. And there you go. See, all along we've been making the presumption that the grain that's grown on this farmland, instead of taking it and feeding it to the cows, turning it into a pound of meat and then feeding one person, you just take it, you feed it directly to the people, and you feed 10 people. But now it's saying, well, this land you couldn't grow grain on this land anyway. Instead, the only thing you can grow on it is grass, and this grass can be fed to the cows, and so some subset of our population still gets to eat meat, right? And it's at no loss to other people because this land couldn't have been used for anything else anyway, right? That's a presumption that the argument has made, that all this land is interchangeable, and B is telling you no, that presumption is wrong. This land is not interchangeable. C says, if a grain diet is supplemented with protein derived from non-animal sources, it can have nutritional value equivalent. So that seems to be supporting it. Yeah, this seems to be addressing a problem. What if nutritionally it's not healthy? And then C's like, oh, don't worry. Grain diet can be supplemented with X, Y, Z to make it just as good. So that seems to strengthen this argument. D says, although prime farmland near metropolitan areas is being lost rapidly to suburban development, we could reverse this trend by choosing to live in. Okay, what does that do? I guess sort of give more farmland back. But then is that enough to sort of close the shortage in food that might arise? We don't know. We need to assume all these things. That's why D doesn't work. Just too many presumptions there. E says, nutritionists agree that a diet composed solely of grain products is not adequate for human health. E is a very, very tricky answer. It sounds like one of the presumptions it's making is that not eating meat is okay, but look at what look closely at E to see what it's actually saying. A diet composed solely of grain products not adequate for human health. Okay, that's fine. So eat not just grain products. Eat grain products plus vegetables, plus fruits, plus soy products, plus other proteins, non-animal proteins. Everything that will make it adequate. Just still don't eat meat. So see, it doesn't actually attack the support here from the premise and conclusion. If you realize that it's actually just talking about grain products, and really we're not really suggesting it. We're just suggesting don't eat meat. Don't eat meat doesn't imply eat only grain products.